had, the experience of leading in the traditional way of microcredit, and now you have moved into this technology part. So I would like you to, point out the essential elements of the difference between this world, old world, and this new world, and what it takes to make that transition. What are the good things over there, and what are some of the, maybe misconceptions that people have on moving over there. And in the process, you have realized that, well, they were misconceptions. They were actually not some of the roadblocks or challenges. So that was the first part.
Yeah, thanks, Prof. My name is Sasidhar. I run a company called Subcube, which is a part of Basix Group, and we are in the financial inclusion space. So just picture this, right? 10, 12 years, 20, 25 years back when Basix started microfinance, commercial microfinance, well, the beginners of the story, there was a time when we were lending we continue to lend only to women borrowers. That is the kind of premise of microfinance broadly. And picture a situation in late 90s, early 2000s, when a rural woman, typically used to either operate out of a backyard enterprise or a house front shop. They used to be around the home, and men used to work a little bit outside of the home, and the money that they used to borrow used to be mostly utilized by men because they had more economic active life. And in that environment, the program was structured in such a way that we lend to women who are considered more disciplined with finances. They are always available in their vicinity, so we can go meet them very easily. We can aggregate them in groups because you need efficiency. You can't give small loans in retail fashion. It will be very expensive. You can use social collateral because they all come together, so it's kind of reputation risk they run through if they don't pay each other. There's social pressure that they go through. So we used all these things to design a beautiful program called microfinance, right? Which works very, very well. It works like a clockwork. Almost everybody pays back, but everybody gets the same loan. Everybody gets the same EMI to be paid on the same day, at the same place, at the same time. Okay, it's a very regimented, very structured program, but it works very well. It worked very well so far. Now, fast forward 2023, 2020 and beyond. Now, these women entrepreneurs who are supposed to be empowering them and the livelihoods are supposed to be promoted, they naturally would be more economically active. Or the next generation that is coming into the space are generally more digitally savvy too. So now you expecting these women to behave the same way that they behaved in early 20s, early 2000s or late 90s is a bit of missing the point, right? Now you want them to be active, you want them to earn more, that they would obviously leave the home and they will be competing with men in the workforce. And participation of women in workforce is growing rural even more. No, it may not get accounted so much, but it is a fact that informal economy, women actively participate as much as men. Okay, if not equally, but proportionately well. In this world, how do we then now interact these women customers so that the same premise on which we build the whole microfinance program doesn't get disrupted, but the approach can be changed? So what we did, we said, maybe technology, there's a solution in technology. If we go and try to conduct a group meeting at 11 o'clock in the morning, you're not doing much of a service to them. You're doing disservice to them because you're expecting them to be available for you during an economically active time. They must be working in field, they may be running a shop on the main street, or they may be working in somebody's house or a factory, and you expect them to come and sit in front of you because they owe you 500 rupees every week.
So cost of travel?
Cost of transaction for the customer is a lot more today than it was that day. Because those days they were in the neighborhood. Now they are no more in the neighborhood. So what is happening? There are not many women are actually showing up in group meetings. Now that increases potentially risk, because if your customer doesn't show up, you have the tendency to feel that, one day they will disappear and you won't get your payments back. So if we design this whole experience in a digital platform, just imagine an app, right? Where now you don't need to insist that they have to be available at a certain point in time, but give them a tool that allows them to still continue to behave in a group because they all are working together. So you create that interface in such a way that when you open an app, you know who are your group members, how much each of us owe, when do we owe, and then if we can give them the ability to pay it off at their convenience, wherever they are, it doesn't matter, and then complete their obligation in a much more smoother and easier manner. You are providing them an option to not only manage their financial lives much more easily, but also save on that transaction cost that they would have incurred otherwise.
If one word were to be found, you are giving them choice.
Choice, absolutely. Because see, until now, unfortunately, the way that microfinance programs are run in this country were more supply driven. Because we wanted to make sure customer behaves the way that we want, so that everything works, like I said, clockwork. But now try and see if that time, the dignity, the choice is given back to the customer. Will customer default? I think they will actually behave better. And the data shows that. And yesterday we were in the board meeting, Satya was also on the board, we were showing to our board members actually the group behavior improved in a digital environment than in a physical environment.
Which 5 years earlier, if you had said that...
Hard to believe. No, even today my peers won't believe. I mean, it's not that everybody is doing this and we are looking at a global data. We're looking at institutional data, and this data has to be talked about. But why is it that? Why is it the case that people are behaving better in the digital world and lesser, they're doing well, but not as well in a physical world? Because if you expect a person to come and sit in front of you with that 500 rupees every week or every fortnight or every month, they will skip one or the other time. There will be situations where they may not be able to show up and the group behavior is broken. But in a digital world, they don't have to show up. They have to push their money into the system. Right? So there's a lot of convenience factor. There's a lot of uncertainty taken out. The value that comes back, what Chakradhar was saying, is in terms of the time saved for them and the hassle saved for them, because the 8th year group meeting is there and you have to preserve that money until the 8th of the month, but your inflow might have happened on the 1st of the month. Now you have an app, you pay it on the 1st of the month. You don't need to wait for 8th of the month. Right? So this is the value. In terms of the whole stress of keeping the cash, and sometimes money is fungible, the last day you're running around to make sure that the EMI is... So there are so many things that happen within the community that we don't come to know. But if you give them the tool and we say, what, we don't want to interfere in your lives, you just complete your obligation, this is like a bill payment for them. Month beginning you have all your income coming at some or the other way, and interestingly, rural health doesn't mean that the money is coming in a daily wages and daily cash. It's not anymore. People are paid in certain installments. People are paid monthly, once in 15 days. The inflow of cash is more structured today. Right? And even if you're running a kirana store, your customers are not paying every day to you. You're paying once in a month because they're salary earners. So the whole cash flows have become very structured. So now you can actually design your program based on that structural cash flows. Month beginning, I got all my inflows. Now I want to pay these bills, my rent, my EMI, and I move on.
So in a certain sense, you are saying that while the overall structure remains the same, but the business model has taken a significant shift.
In our case, for example, it's not that globally it has changed, it's still going through a change, but the point I'm trying to make is that if we can identify those modes of friction, where in a non-digital world we had no other option, because of efficiency reasons, risk reasons, or whatever reasons, we have designed things in certain way, whether it is agri, whether it is finance, whether it is education. If we can actually reimagine that whole workflow and see where did we create the friction and how do we release that by replacing with a digital tool or a data, I think everybody will win in this whole game.
When I hear this, the thing that comes to my mind is, although I'm not a techie, but normally you would expect people to design certain things, very, very technically very well designed, the back end, everything, but keeping the customer, their own problems, and the changes that they have undergone in their own lives, if you don't keep them, then the app that you develop is not going to be very, very customer friendly.
Absolutely. So see, there are two aspects, right? One is the app, obviously, the interface. It can be app, it can be WhatsApp messaging, whatever it can be. It doesn't have to be app all the time. But the point of one is interface. The user interface is very, very critical. But even if you design a beautiful interface, there is another interface, which is what he called digital assistant, or there is an assistance aspect, or there is a change maker aspect associated with this business. What do you mean by change maker? Somebody who is interacting with the customer on a day-to-day basis. Now this person is supposed to be helping the customer adapt to this. Okay, I will slight difference with Chakradhar is that it's not, we can't say that these customers are not digitally savvy. They are probably not given enough opportunity to become digital. I would put it that way. So if you can actually help them adopt the technology, my experience is that they adopt faster than we do because we have options. We can manage without technology. Right? There are other facilities that we can deal with.
Oh, this is a very interesting observation. Yeah. You are seeing people in the rural areas who are not as well endowed as us, they adapt to technology faster than us because they have less options. And
exactly.
They tend to benefit more.
Absolutely.
People like us.
It is proven in very traditional microfinance model that why people pay precisely on time. And it is not the case in retail MSME loans. If you see, their risks are much higher than a microfinance loan. Why? It's not because they are better borrowers or these people are bad borrowers. It's because their choices are limited. They don't want to lose out on the choice. They want to maintain their record so that they continue to get the support that they get from MFI. So there is this behavior aspect. Similarly, it applies to digital as well. Their options in the infrastructure and facilities are so limited. If you can give them an easier experience in a digital world, they would adopt it faster than you and I would. Now I can pull out the cash and pay to somebody, I don't have a real challenge there. But they will have to run around to get the cash and manage the cash, the change and all that stuff. They say, so they don't have to deal with any, maybe BC agent also to an extent. They don't want to deal with anybody. I don't want to deal with an individual. Why should they want to deal with an individual? So I think in my opinion, it is also about this change maker. The person who is in the middle of the customer and the company has to first take this, buy this idea. And this OD part of the organizational change that we need to invest in is a much bigger investment than technology investment. Right? As all revenue promotion organizations, all of us who are working with rural communities or large customer bases, it is very important that internal buy-in happens. There is an internal change that has to start. Now we should not blame the customer that they have not adopted it. Did we first adopt it? Everybody in the organization has taken that as their challenge and as their responsibility. Then you go to the customer and say, hey, I did my part, can you do your part?
Shashi, now I come to you about the, for example, you did mention when I intervened, you were talking about the challenges, that the organization faces. I'd like you to build more on that.
So I would not really say challenge. It is we have to take certain things into account. Like I was beginning to talk about before you decide whether the customer is ready or not. We should first decide whether we are ready or not as an organization, right? There may be a top-down push. Someone like me will always keep saying that we should do digital. There is no future without it. But if that is only a narrative, or is it something that you can do to educate your internal stakeholders to see value for themselves? So, like you said, customers should see value. Even everyone in the organization should see value. Otherwise, it is sort of difficult to percolate down. So, one way to look at it is just you just mentioned that people who are on the ground who used to deliver things physically, if you tell them go educate your customers to do it digitally on their own, why would that person do it? It is a matter of their livelihood. Forget about customer livelihood. So there is this aspect of tension that gets created when change happens, and it is important for us to first internalize about whether this change is going to add value not only at the company level, at the customer level, but at the whole stakeholder level. So if this guy who is going to change the behavior of the customer, if you can create a unit economics at his level and then create the right incentives for that person, that if you are able to digitize half of your customers, you will be able to serve double the customers. Because you still will have the same time with you. But now half of your customers have moved on, which will remain your customers because you have to provide them service when needed. But there will be other set of customers who will probably continue to do the same level of service because there is an adoption matrix. And then you can add as many customers who move into digital. So you will always be able to serve more than less customers.
So right? in a sense, in dollar terms, he earns more amount
absolutely
than he did earlier.
And what we did initially is to demonstrate that intent. We actually went out and said, if you convert a customer and the customer starts paying digitally to us, you will earn twice the incentive than you would have earned by physically making the effort. That means if you don't make an effort, once you make an effort, convert your customer for 2 months, then remaining 22 months you get paid, even without visiting the customer, you get double incentive. You're not spending your fuel, you're not spending your time, you're not spending your energy, but you're getting double incentive. Where you're spending all these three, you get X. But you don't spend any of those in future, you get 2X. The reason being, we know that the 2X will generate 4X return because then he will use that time to generate more business or meet more customers, acquire more business. Right? So it's an investment that you need to make in terms of those initial promotion value, incentive value, whatever that is. Like we do, promotion for customers also. In our case, we don't do that. But we have taken these people as a real change agents and invested in them, both on their training, on their awareness generation, and on their income generation.
Okay.
So that then they sort of started adopting it. They said, this is helping me. I can make more money by actually doing less. Right? And everybody gains out of it.
So the training that he was talking about is at one level, but what you are talking about is far more substantive in bringing about the attitudinal change, and it's all built in what you might call the compensation system also within the organization. So that's 1 degree more than that. In your case, what I suspect is the person, the field executive, he should know something about the business, about apples. He must know about the technology part. He must know about the company which is going to take it, and he must be assuring them the money would be coming back. But you are giving a totally different dimension altogether. Okay, we'll be running short of time, so I just one question before I move to him. Unless until we can, of course, we are talking about an area which is fast changing. Technology changes extraordinarily fast. But how do you envisage the future? Let's say, how do you see the next 5 years? I can't go more than that.
No, I mean, envisaging the future is at a different level, right? Like my level and my CXO level, we dream up a 5-year, hence what the company looks like. But we don't need to load that on the top of the rest of the organization, right? So the change comes slowly, right? Once the adoption happens, people, I'll give you a very simple example, right? At a customer level, let's not worry about whether blockchain will change the world or not. What is happening at the customer level? Today, when I'm saying the customer is paying digitally, it doesn't mean that customer themselves are paying. Okay, there is an ecosystem around the customer. So customer's daughter may be paying, customer's husband may be paying, her brother living in a town who is actually able to manage a smartphone is paying. So the change happens from not necessarily that individual, but the individual manages to get the thing done before that person adopts it. So 5 years down the line, this person may themselves do it. But today, it's not that person is only doing it. We allow that person to actually use the support system that is around them. Similarly, at an organization level, we may have a dream to build a fully tech company, but I want to make sure that small changes are adopted in a way that everybody internalizes and start participating in the dream over a period of time. So, hence, I don't worry that, 5 years down the line, I want to use blockchain. Should we start introducing blockchain today? It doesn't work, right? We may have to build an architecture, we may have to build a sort of a schema in our mind that this is where we will go if we have to adopt the technology. But in the institutional level, you have to make small changes, baby steps.
So you are distinguishing between the macro aspect of the change and what you are talking about at the micro level, what is happening.
Absolutely.
This thing that you were talking less than, I think, 6-7 months ago, I was doing some field work in Meerut area, and we went to a small house. And it was very interesting. The lady, when we asked her, she could say about the business. I said, but how do you operate? He said, maine karti. Right. Her daughter came, the son was there, and we were surprised that the boy was no more than 11 or 12, and the girl was possibly in the 10th class. And the fluidity with which she did it, and the way she explained it, I said, wonderful. Right. Absolutely. And my next question is, what do you want to be? And the girl says, I want to pursue computer science. Now imagine in a village area where this girl, had she not been, managing this app of yours, would not have possibly even thought in those terms. Okay.